Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg Shaped. We are back, and who do you bring in but probably the First Lady of a whole load of organisations, an absolute legend who has had such a significant impact on so many players, but because she's so humble, she's unlikely going to take much credit for it. We spent some time in Amsterdam together, which is maybe a story for another day, but we were both there with the amazing institution that is the Penguins, and this person has made a huge contribution to that club and so many tours over the years. Let's not waste any more time, because if you think I like to talk, brace yourself. Let's bring in the one and the only Sandra Solar Gomez. Hello there, how are you?
Hi, I'll try and be quiet then if you're concerned about my chat.
No, Ted, please don't be quiet. I don't think I would ever know you to be quiet. So I'm keen to get straight into it. Rugby for you has been a huge part of your life. And we're probably going to get to a point where I don't ask a generation of women why they're involved in rugby. But I think I do need to ask, why are you involved in rugby? Where did that start?
So I suppose it started from me loving sport. So I played netball at a pretty high level, and then I went to the States to take part in a summer camp, and I came back a bit different in size, and that size of netball no longer fitted me, right? So I just put my feelers out to find another sport, and rugby was pretty close around. Never touched it, never tried it, just knew about it. So I just rocked up and said, hi, I would like to try. And that was it. That was a long time ago. You know, I was 21, I think I was, when that happened.
And being that naive to the game, you couldn't have possibly imagined what the future was going to hold.
Absolutely. No, not a clue. Not a clue.
And so what did it look like when you first rocked up, having played? And netball, it always makes me laugh. It's now not a non-contact sport. I think it has now been, there's an acknowledgement that netball is a contact sport. But to then go into rugby and you're crashing into people and tackling people, what did it feel like at the beginning? Did you just take to it, or did it take a bit of getting used to?
I suppose it took a bit of getting used to, but I think the ball handling skill side of it was huge for me. Spatial awareness, ball handling. They kind of threw me in the centres to start with. Probably not the best place apart from a crash ball. That's probably the most effective I could be there. But you know, it was a whole learning curve. You know, and that went on for years, because it was still. I mean, it wasn't new, but it was still quite fresh, if that makes sense. So. You know, I've never stopped learning, even now, Bruce, right? So back then I was learning, but it was a great opportunity. And I went to, my first club was Blackheath, and they were a really good group of girls. They were pretty solid, good foundation, real rugby ethos, as in old school rugby. I learned plenty of songs there, not so much at Saracens later on in life, but Blackheath certainly put me in good stead for understanding rugby tunes, which we still use today, right? But the youngsters look at you and go, what is she doing? What is she saying? But you know, it was a great place to go. And there was a great little group of people there, really lovely group of ladies.
And what did the competition look like? Were you playing every week? Were you just playing when games were organised? How did it start?
No, we had a league. I mean, you know, Blackheath at the time were in a league of like Wasps and Richmond and Waterloo, Saracens, everyone. We were in that league. It was, I don't ask me what it was called. I have no idea. No idea at all. I do remember though, Bruce, you'll like this one. And I do hope I'm allowed to say this. I do remember the cup round was sponsored by Vladimir Vodka. Oh my gosh, that was a great people to sponsor us. You know, how life's changed since then. But yeah, we kind of played in those. It wasn't every week, but it was pretty much every other week. And you just played home and away, just in a league structure. And that's pretty much how we were.
And were you taken seriously? And by that, I mean, did Blackheath value the women's section, or were you battling and scrapping for pitch time and strips and equipment, coaches, or were they investing in you from the start?
So Blackheath at that time was definitely invested in the women's section, 100%. You know, you got the first team pitch, you got access to the physios, you got your kit. They looked after you. You know, you had space in the bar. They did used to have one of those members bars that you weren't allowed in. That changed over time, as we all know. As did Waterloo have a similar one. And I know Bernsey came across that one. But yeah, they looked after us. And there's no doubt about that. And yeah, they were those stupid questions that always come about women playing rugby. But generally, the club as a whole were fantastic. Yeah, they were.
And did you have a clue of what other opportunities were available? Did you know that there was a chance for international rugby and coaching was going to be in the future, or were you just playing and enjoying yourself?
The first sort of year and a half I was playing and enjoying, and then it was a case of, oh, actually, I'm not too bad at this. And I was always, being in that sporting arena, you kind of always got that, I want to be better, I want to be better. You can't help it, it is what you are. So I decided that, you know, Blackheath probably weren't as serious as some of the other clubs. So I ventured over to Sarries.
And from that, what did you want out of that?
I wanted to start getting those sort of like that regional stuff going on. I wanted to try and see if I could get my foot in the door in that England space. That space looked really different then. You know, we kind of, you know, you kind of got in that regional space or county space, regional space. And then it was like the pathway was, there wasn't this sort of like under 18s, under 20s, all that stuff, you know, it just didn't exist then. It was kind of emerging in England. So it was like a feeder group to the bigger squad of England. So you kind of need to get yourself into that space. And that was where I put myself to get in that space. So yeah, that's why I joined them. But there was a challenge because that club had so many international players there from every nationality. So,
and they were there because they were working locally, but had all gravitated towards the same place because they all wanted something similar, high level of competition, playing a strong team.
Yeah, I mean, the ladies, founders of that set that up. I mean, they had struggles for doing that, but they wanted exactly the same thing. They wanted to be playing at a high level, and they wanted to be playing other good caliber teams, right, at good levels. So, yeah, they forged really hard at Sarries for sure. They made sure, again, Saracens at that point in time, well, the first few years was a bit challenging, but afterwards, you know, the open arm and how the women's section grew with, you know, the help of people who came in later on, like Nigel Ray. I mean, he was unbelievable with us. Prior to that, when we had to serve dinners to the, you know, the president's lunch, that was part of the clause. And we had to sell programs at the men's game, and we had to do the burger van. That was all part of, you know, you can play women's rugby if you do all this stuff, ladies. Oh, yeah. I'm not joking. Bruce, you can laugh, but we had a dinner at Sarries last year, and Nigel Ray's daughter, Lucy, at the time, CEO, and she was embarrassed to hear the story. And the players who play now, they were sitting there like this. It was like, you had to do that. We're like, yeah, we did, just so we could play rugby. That's what we had to do. But you did it because that's what we did. You know, we just got on and did it. But the girls were amazing there. I mean, you know, normal. I would say it was kind of still a community, although it was a Premiership club, it was a community club, as in we played in a public field. So we did that patrol before a game to make sure it was clear, right?
Yeah, been there.
You know, I'm not sure the men had to do that when they were there. But, you know, as times went on, and we had really good coaching, and we were really lucky. Actually, one of my coaches, is he my favourite coach? I probably better say it, no. But Lee Adamson also does some coaching work with the academy at Penguins, and he was my coach for quite a few years. He was absolutely behind the women's section, unbelievably. And as I say, Nigel was fantastic too. So we got the opportunity. As the men grew, he took the women along that pathway too, as much as he was allowed to do that.
So when you say there was lots of people there from other countries and other areas, who stuck it, who started there and was able to get through all those challenges, like working on the burger van, having to, you know, strive ahead as a group, I'm guessing, to get everything. I mean, saying that you went back and spoke, and players now are looking at you going, I can't believe you did that. But you were just doing it because that was going to get you the thing you wanted, which was to play. So who was in amongst that group that, like you's gone on to do so much for the game?
So people like Emma Mitchell, right? Both the Mitchell sisters, and they've done a huge amount. I mean, in sport, Emma's massive in sport. Lisa Burgess, Another one, Susie Appleby. Look where Susie was, maybe not now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
she has a huge amount of potential, and I'm sure she'll find that other job. So yeah, I mean, oh God, there was just so, it's awful because you sit here and you do names. I'm a lady of a certain age now, Bruce, so I have to be careful. I can't always remember everything. So, you know, I will miss people out, and please don't slate me when we're next out drinking, you lot. You can moan. Amanda Bennett, Welsh 10. She's been involved in sport and still is massively, you know, in that Welsh camp. Claire Donovan, Karen Armand. I mean, there was just loads of players of that. Claire Frost, you know. I mean, oh God, if I miss Frosty out, she'd really kill me, wouldn't she? But, you know, and I know at some point, you know, when I was at Blackheath, it was the likes of Jackie Edwards and Maxine Edwards. And then there was some of the Welsh girls that were there. And, you know, Maxine and Jackie both came to Saracens in the end. So that family grew, but there was constantly pressure from players who are really achieving great things for you to be better and better and better. That's why they had such great depth, I think, at Sarries, and were able to, you know, put out 2 teams regularly. We even played each other in a cup final one year because we were in 2 different pools, and then we both won our pools, came together and played each other in a final. That was amusing. You know, that would never happen this day and age, but, you know, it was fantastic. But, you know, there's the girls that were there. I mean, Bruce, they're families for life. You know how rugby worked. You know, we go on holiday every year together, even now, all of us. It's a bit different. It's a bit different. Some of them still exercise a lot. I personally don't. You know, so when they say, oh, I'm doing an Ironman next month, I think that's nice. I'll sponsor you.
Yes,
you like
send me the link.
Yeah, would you like anything from the fridge? Because I'm going that direction. Or the cupboard, because the chocolate's in that direction. You know? It's a bit different. It's a bit different, but they're great, you know, great girls still.
And that desire to get better and playing, like you said, but all the while you're working as well. You're doing your job, proper amateur days of working, and then putting as much probably energy and enthusiasm into that. So what did working life look like?
It was the same for the players, right? All the international players all still worked, right? Everyone did. So my working life, my only day off was a Monday of anything, because we played pretty much on a Sunday. So Monday was the rest day. And then it would be, okay, Tuesday night, it would be personal training. Wednesday night, it would be Sarries session. Thursday night would be personal training. Friday night would be a Sarries session. Saturday would be a kind of light work, and Sunday you'd play. And that's what life really, really looked like. When I first got married, I moved over to Essex where my husband lived, and was closer to Sarries. That made it a bit of an easier journey. But the primary reason for that was I was like, I'm never here, mate. You kind of need to have your friends around you because your wife's not going to be around even though you married her. So we kind of, we moved to Essex, and that made Sarries' life a bit easier for me. But it was just full on, you know, but that's the commitment you made because you wanted to be better, right? You didn't want that. You just did the bits you needed to do.
And the people that you were working with day to day in your employment, did they know what you were doing? Did they know your commitment to the game?
Massively, yeah. I mean, at that point in time, I was working for a really good company, and if I had to, they're an American company, and I had to spend a lot of time in the States. And if I had anything major going on, they booked me about first class. They were really aware of things going on. They really looked after me. You know, they as I went on a little bit more, and I did get into the emerging England squad, they kind of used me a little bit, not in a bad way. I mean, in a positive, you know, as in, that sounded awful, didn't it? Oh God, if anyone knows who I worked for, they're going to say that wasn't what it was like. When they didn't use me. Like it was like a promotional thing, really. As you know, we've got this lady, and she does this, and she does this, and it was good for them. So they did look after me. They were pretty there. They were good. They were good. I can't complain. But all the ladies, you know, everyone worked full time. Loads of teachers worked full time. How they fitted in their training, Lord knows. But that is just what you did, you know. It's what you had to do.
And emerging England, were you ready for it when it came? Oh
yeah, for sure. I just got a bit silly in the space. After a year and a half, I found out that I was pregnant. So foolish lady. There's things I can control, and I was a bit foolish. So I never went beyond that. I never got a cap. That's probably a major thing that I'm absolutely gutted I didn't achieve, because I feel like I could have got there. I think I would have got there more to the point, really, on a more positive vibe. And so now when we're all together as the pioneers, you know, and I see the names of all the ladies on the board that I've played with forever and are friends of mine, and I think, oh my God, I wish I'd got myself there. Not for that recognition, but it's just part of that group of people that I had an opportunity, and I kind of messed it up myself, really.
Yeah, and life gets in the way. When you look at the players now and the opportunities they've got, and you've been part of giving players opportunities through your time, are you amazed at the progress it's made, or are you sad that it's taken so long, or are you just supporting how it is at the moment?
So actually, Bruce, it's all of those, is the truth. I'm glad it's got to where it's got to. It's taken way too long to get there. It should have got there a lot sooner, without a doubt, and it will continue to grow. I will always support it in whatever form it takes, in the guise of, let's make it better. How do we make it better? What can we change to make it better? What haven't we done right? You know, all that sort of guys. So, you know, I think I wish it had got a lot further than it has, honestly. But I'm not going to knock where it's at. I think it's great opportunities, not just for the current sort of, like, you think about the Prem levels, but if you go down through the grassroots, the opportunities that young girls get now, that grassroots level, that's a massive part of me still. And those opportunities, they didn't exist in a lot of female sport at a young age, because girls didn't tend to do loads. I'm not saying they didn't do it, they just didn't do loads of sport. But the options for sport now, you know, I'm not just talking about rugby, but, you know, you've got cricket, and you've got football, and you've got hockey, and you've got golf, and you've got everything is there for young girls to, A, you know, access, but B, have role models, right, that are in that space, you know. Oh, Bruce, I've got to say this, because if I don't say it, and I'm not name dropping here, but if I don't say it, I'm going to get slated. So when I was at Sarries, one of our young players in our junior section, right, was none other than the other legend that is the machine, Alfonsi, right? She came through that. She didn't sell burgers, though, or programs. I just point that out. She might have had to sweep the changing rooms, though. I'm not sure.
And I mean, even she was in that almost in between of there are better opportunities, but still not what they are now. And she didn't stop playing that long ago. So even in the time from Maggie winning, you know, and being captain, and to now, she must be looking at it going, wow, that's moved on, you know, light years compared to when she finished. So from you seeing her as a young player, it's incredible the distance that's been traveled.
Oh, for her, for sure. But, you know, I mean, I have read her book, and it's quite amazing when you think about the journey she's on and the difficulties she had. And there were a lot of difficulties she had that have been ironed out, right? There's still more to come. But the reality is, you know, yeah, I mean, that you'd have to ask her, right? Get her on here is what I say, Bruce. But, you know, I'm sure her journey's been hugely different. But what a great opportunity, again, for girls. Look at the career she now has. Would that have ever been a career opportunity for ladies of my era? Potentially not, you know. And why was that? Was it because we didn't push for it? Was it because it wasn't there and no one was giving it, you know? But it's evolved, and I love the fact that people are doing it now, and long may that continue just to grow.
I think one of the points you made just before is really interesting, because the girls' game is growing unbelievably. But like you just said there wasn't that many sports. There was girls did netball and hockey and, you know, gymnastics and that. Like, it was that really traditional girls things, boys things. And now it's so competitive. Girls hopefully can do everything. Why do you think rugby's having such a surge for girls?
I think, like with any sport, right, when you get a big World Cup or something, look at what happened with footy, right? You get that surge that happens, and you get the, you know, the governing body behind it. You know, they start saying, oh, we want to get this many people in the game by this amount of time. They start putting a bit more effort into it. That all kind of bubbles up. It's kind of making sure it stays up there. That is the bigger thing, I think. But I think just the opportunities, the schools are doing more. They're so much more aware of what options they need to give to kids, not just in the sporting arena, but across the educational arena. And I think girls no longer see it as, oh, that's a boys' sport, right? Because I do think there was a little bit of that with all females anyway. They just see it as an opportunity to be with their mates. And I think with rugby, it's that core value stuff again around that teamwork, isn't it? And that sportsmanship. And I think the relationships in rugby, because even at a young age, you've got to be there for each other so much more in rugby, because it's that support role all the time. Even if it's just tagging, you're passing the ball to someone, you've got to be there. And when you start building those relationships at a young age with girls, it's much healthier. And that's why I think it's something that will just keep growing. I just want to see them starting really young and really staying in the game before they get to that bit in the middle where they're not quite sure if the boys are going to pass to them still, all that sort of stuff that goes on. But, it's nice. The age grading over the girls' games changed over the years. And I think that's been helpful to bring that down lower so that younger girls are splitting out into girls-only sections earlier than they previously were. I think, it'll keep growing. I think it's great for the girls.
When I spoke to Tamara Taylor, she went against what I hear quite often. She said she didn't need to see it to believe it. She just loved it and was playing and just loved the game. Whereas others, you hear this a lot in the media, young girls need to see it to believe it. And now there's a lot more to see. I think the women's sevens circuit seems to be flying compared to the men's is a bit of a token, whereas for some of the women's teams, that's their elite level. You look at the Australians and they're flying. We've got the Rugby World Cup coming up. Mm-hmm. The Six Nations is about to hit, which is hopefully going to be amazing, although I can't see anybody touching England. But where do you sit on that? Because you probably didn't have a rugby role model to look at and think, right, that's what I want to be.
A role model, but what I had around me was that team, and those ladies were just role models in themselves, right? But they were just my mates, so I don't suppose I really saw them as a role model. I just saw them as an aspiration because of where they'd got and what I wanted to achieve.
But you probably didn't know that until you went.
So I knew it.
Did you?
I've done my research. I've done my research. I'm not that silly, Bruce. I've done my research. Well, the thing is, at the end of the day, there wasn't many international fixtures. So as a player, when there was an international fixture, you went to it. So you started to get to know people, and it was smaller and it was intimate. They finished the game, they come in the bar with you afterwards. There's none of this segregation stuff that went on. And so you just got to know people over time. And I suppose you could say they're your role models, but ultimately I had too many of them became my good friends. Maybe not good for them, but good for me.
Very good. So now you look at the game, and you had a big hand in Lizzie Musa, who has been on and spoke very highly of you, name dropped you in there. There's a whole load of players. You're involved with the Wooden Spoon, you're involved with the Penguins, you're still involved in club, you're involved in coaching. You obviously get a massive buzz out of that.
I do. I don't do it for recognition. I do it because I love it. And Bruce, I've always, when someone says, what's my why, right? My why is really simple. I got so much from the game and continue to get so much from the game that I want to keep putting back into it, because that's just going to hopefully make it better in some form, whatever that form looks like. And that's as simple as it truly is. It's there. I don't think my husband thinks I'm probably married to rugby more than I'm married to him, I think, at times. I think he did say to me on Sunday morning when I said, by the way, I'm just popping down the club to watch the England game. He went, you love that place. He's probably right. Probably right.
There are worse places to be. There are definitely worse places to be. I love that. And you've maybe answered it by saying how your husband is. But one of the things I find difficult is selling that to people when the value is just in here. Like you bring that in, the passion and the way that you talk and the things you attend and the people you've touched, but there's people looking at going, it's just a game. Getting them into a clubhouse and feeling that's really important, isn't it?
Massively, because the clubhouse is not just about the players; it's about the whole, right? So if you've got the young players, it's about their families. You've got to get the families on board, because those families are the ones that are going to bring the kids, right? And be with them all the way through, and even into hopefully their senior rugby, right? Wherever that may be. So having the right club in order to build that and the atmosphere. And when you walk in, not any hostility that you will often get with some sports when you walk in a club and you walk into the wrong side of a bar, right? And they all go, and you go, oh my God, I better walk out again. You don't want that in a club. And I try and make sure that I include not just the players, but I'm including their siblings and I include their parents. And I think it's hugely important to be like that in a club environment and create, foster a great environment that people want to come back to socially, not just for the rugby.
We've been speaking for 25 minutes and we've not really mentioned anything that happens on a pitch or in a game. It's all been about people and how it feels. I miss the changing room. If there was anything I could have back, it would be a changing room, not necessarily a game, but a changing room. If you could go back to any changing room before a game or at halftime or at full time, when you just, this is it. I'm not sure I could be. I feel like I could give you a bundle of times in a changing room that I loved. If you could go back to one, what would it be?
It's a changing room in a school. Okay, a school in Watford. And the reason why it was a school in Watford was because at the time, Sarri's men played at Watford. And we were playing in a cup final. And the men we were at the warm-up game beforehand. The men were playing Bath. And of course, Watford Football Club only had 2 changing rooms, right? So, of course, we didn't get those changing rooms. The men were going to get those changing rooms. So we were in a grammar school down the road. And it literally was like, 200 metres down the road. And I remember sitting in that changing room before the game and those nerves, everything's there, right? And everyone's talking and it's going to be great and we're going to do what we can do and we're at home and And then you get on the coach to go 200 yards down the road. That's what you had to do because there was lots of people around for the men's game, or for the women's game, of course. And the coach, you got off the coach. When you got off the coach, though, you were kind of at that gates and you remember going in. But then forget what went on. Played a game. We won a game. I got off the bench because I had sleepless for a while because Lee Addison decided that I wasn't good enough to start, but that's because 2 Welshies were in the squad. But I remember we didn't get on a coach to go back. We walked down the street to go back after we'd met all the players. And then in that change room afterwards, oh my God, just elation, right? That feeling of just being part of something. It was the first time, it might not have been the first time, but it was early doors. Sky Television actually televised the game. And that was kind of unheard of, but they did because the men's game was going to be televised, right? So they were at the field. And that was, it was quite a lot of euphoria going on. Let's put it that way.
Class. I love it. I absolutely love it. And when you look at the players that potentially saw, or thinking that people potentially saw that, did you have any clue that you were being maybe the person that someone was watching and going, hang on, I can have a crack at that? Did you have any idea that you were a role model?
No, and it's just, you say that and I kind of don't even feel myself as a role model. You know what I'm like. I'm awful, really. But, no, definitely not at that point. I think it was just so young, really still in its infancy. I think now there's so much social media stuff going on and the girls have got, the female players have got so many more people they can idolise and look up to. And I think those players are doing a really sterling job of getting the word out there and making themselves open and amenable to players. I mean, some of these Premiership players, some of the girls that I've coached over the years, like in under 18s and below, they message them directly. I'm like, what do you mean you message Poppy Cleal? What do you mean? She's like, oh, yeah, you just message her and she comes back to you. And you're like, really? Okay. Great. That wouldn't have been around in our days. In my days, you had to pick up a phone. Yeah. Not one of these phones. I mean, maybe at the beginning it was a pigeon. I'm not sure.
One of these, not one of these.
These
I love
phones,
that.
not these phones. Yeah.
I love
one
that.
of these phones that you used to do this to,
Yeah, I had one of those. 999 took about 3 weeks.
Why was it 111? It was much closer. Some people on this, if anyone's listening to this, Bruce, some people won't have a clue what we just spoke about there.
Yeah, I was too lazy to do prank calls because it took too long.
I never did them. I was a good girl.
No, I'll bet. And when you talk about that, like Poppy Cleal or, these role models, because even like the Cleals they were huge, but then along comes somebody else and, the standard just keeps pushing, and the depth in England is frightening. When we look at this year with a World Cup coming up, really we can't see past England, surely. They have to win it at home.
Bruce, honestly, I've been to pretty much all the World Cups. I've missed 2. And I have to say, I may have shed a tear in New Zealand. Correction, I did shed a tear. I'm going to own that, right? There was a group of us old girls, as we would call ourselves, hanging around, as you do. And I think between us, I don't think one of us had a dry face because we just felt that it was kind of just robbed in that last line out. God, it's emotional talking about it because it really was emotional being there. And I look at other World Cups and I just think, New Zealand are phenomenal, Bruce. There is no two ways about it. They have this raw talent and this passion. It's just culturally unbelievable. An amazing place to be. But if you look at when we were in Ireland, kind of didn't really show up to that World Cup final. And when we left there, we literally, us old girls, we literally went, let's go. We're all going back to wherever we were. We never went out drinking anything, right? Obviously hydrating and water. And it was just, it's changed and been different. 2014 in France, we were all in the pub on the corner at the bottom of the Stadium Road where Stade de France is and all they played next door, right? Well, I don't know. That wasn't Stade de France. What am I talking about? It was some ground. Oh, my God, I can't remember. That old age thing kicking in. We were in the pub on the corner, and the coach, Streety, stops the coach with all the players and they get off in the pub with us and we're just all having a drink with them. Those moments are amazing and they're mad. This year, though, going back to the real question was what's going to happen. I think the home advantage is going to play its part, but I do think the plethora of players we've got is phenomenal. And I think if we put on put up the right game at the right time in the right round, there's no reason why we're not going to be in the final, and there's no reason why we can't bring home that silverware. I can't just have 2014 as my memory. Actually, 1999. Oh my God, 1994. 9. What was the World Cup in Scotland? What year was that? Brain again.
93.
4. 94.
No,
anyway, whatever it was.
93.
The game in Scotland where they won it, that was a great one too. Yeah, I was there. I was a lot younger then, Bruce. A lot younger.
Just a baby. Yeah. It's mad when you think the squad that went to New Zealand didn't have Mo Hunt in it. Like she'd pretty much played before and she's played after, but she didn't go. And she's probably playing as well as she's ever played just now.
I have got to say this. I think for Gloucester at the moment, she's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Honestly, phenomenal, amazing. I will never understood. I've got one of the ex-Irish players, and she's a scrum half, and she's always been a Mo Hunt fan. And Rao says to me, Sandra, how can she not be in the squad? And I'm like, I have no idea. What are we going to do with that player that snipes around the edges, that puts the challenge in, that stands that defence up to stay in, because she's going to keep them in by just moving herself around? And I have no idea what happened there. I was heartbroken, actually, for her, I've got to say, because I felt she was a player who should have been there.
But even all that experience, like there's what happens on the pitch, but so experienced. So,
experience. You can't get that, right? You can have a player who's got amazing talent, but have they got this up here to play the right rugby at the right point in that red zone at the right time and know what to do from the experience? That's what they missed.
Yeah,
what they missed.
It was a weird, but the depth is just, when you look at Emily Scarrett, like her place is not guaranteed. She might not be in that starting 15 because the depth in the centre is just ridiculous. And Meg Jones is just on another planet, I think. I think Meg, and that all that time in sevens seems like it's helped, but when she's come back to 15s, it's like she's been there forever.
It's kind of weird how some of them can transition, and some of them find that really they kind of go, no, I'm just going to do the sevens circuit. We've got some phenomenal players in our England squad up front. I'm not being funny, but talk about work engines. How many players can we say are really not doing their bit around the park? They're so, I kind of don't want to sit here and mention names because there's so many, and if I miss someone, I'd feel horrific, you know. And what speed we've got outside, it's just crazy. I mean, Lord forbid curly-haired lady at the back that we're not going to talk about. Lord forbid she slows down, because my God, she's like a steam train when she's going.
She's lightning. She is
my
absolutely
God.
lightning. The back row is frightening. The back row scares the living daylights out of me.
I would never want to be opposite that back row. Right. No, for sure. I mean, I'll just go, here's your right away, come through.
And then, you know, crowned the best player in the world. And it's funny, when she was telling the story, the TV cameras were all there and she thought it was just another Mo Hunt kind of, Mo's done something cool, and then they go, oh, by the way, you're the best player in the world, and now she's the captain, and the way she plays is just, she doesn't make it look easy, because that's not what I mean, but she's just so good. She's so consistent.
She's so aware. She's just aware of what threats are in front of her, what options she's got. She's, you know, it's just what's behind, what's a spike. She's just so aware, and you can, but it almost seems you can't even see her cogs going. They just happen, right? And she's just an amazing player. Amazing. So, yeah, it answers to all of that. We've talked about probably 10 minutes on that. Yes, England will win the World Cup, Bruce. We're at home. And I've got tickets to the final, and I'm going. And I've got tickets to the opening game, and I'm going.
I'm at the opening game, but I couldn't get tickets for the final. I've sold out. The only thing that was available was hospitality at 600 quid a pop or something, I think. So I'm going to... We
couldn't afford that.
I'm going to the game in Brighton. I'm going to the game in Sunderland. And I'm going to try and get to a Scotland game.
The Brighton game's a Samoa-England game, right?
Yeah. I'm going on a stag do to that.
I haven't got tickets for that one yet. So you find me some, I'll find you some.
You can come on a stag do. Can you believe, like, this is where the world's got to? I'm going on a stag do to a women's game of rugby.
Yeah, I wouldn't fit in with that.
Oh, are you joking? You can mix it with Submariner, no problem. You'll be fine.
Hey, Bruce, I know you asked the questions, but I kind of just want to give you a fact here, because I you know how bad I am about promoting stuff, right? And me especially. Someone asked me not that long ago how many people, female people, do you think I've had within my remit for something I've been doing? Okay, since I've started in the coaching space, and I worked it out to be just shy of about 2,000 girls. Right. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what have I done with those 2,000 girls, and where are they now? And weirdly enough, the weekend before last, I was at a cup final, and no, I lie, it was a cup quarterfinal. And this girl walked up to me and she said, you don't recognize me, do you? And I said, no. She said, you taught me at primary school. She said, and I'm still playing. And my sister played because I played, and my brother played because I played. She said, and actually there's lots of the girls who are at that primary school that still play, and it's because of you. And you're like, oh, wow, that's really quite nice. Thanks very much. And then you walk away thinking, oh, my God, I'm so proud of myself. But you don't say it out loud, right? But it's amazing when I really think about how much time I've put in as a volunteer, because kind of that's it. I'm a volunteer, right? Yeah, thousands upon thousands of girls that have kind of been through something that I've set up or something I've organised or done, you know, not necessarily my hands on their coaching, but something I've set up to allow that to happen. And it's actually, you know, it's quite amazing when you think about it. And I may have even done myself out of a few thousand. I have no idea.
I reckon you probably have. But I also, back to something you said about your why, you weren't doing it for her to come back to you in a few years' time and say, by the way, thank you. Like, because there's 1,999 plus kids who might not get the chance to come back and say thank you. And even if a bundle of them are still in the game, that's great. But you've helped them with communication, teamwork, physical skill, you've brought them a bit of joy in that time, and that's the bit that's incredible. I'm not really going to let you respond to that because you probably won't know how to respond to that, but I'm just going to say I don't think you fully appreciate the number of people you've had an impact on. And that kind of brings me to the next bit. So you are the ultimate tourist. How did things like like when you get the call, or how did the Penguins come around? Because that's where we met. That's how I know you, and I feel really lucky that it just kind of worked, that for that one in Amsterdam, the men and the women were together. It was an incredible thing. I feel really honoured to have been there, and that was where we met. But the Penguins is something that's been around for 65 years. It was a men's team for a long, long time. How, what, where did Sandra get involved?
So Amanda Bennett, who I spoke about earlier, Welsh international, she went out to coach for Penguins on the back of Lee Addinson having done it from Sarries. The year after, they asked her if she should go out again to do some coaching, and she just didn't have time in her agenda. She went, but I've got someone for you. And she kind of threw it my way. So that was 2017. So I went out to, where did I go? Oh, Kuala Lumpur. So I coached in Kuala Lumpur for 10 days, which was just a fantastic opportunity. And then I've kind of been in that coaching academy for Penguins ever since. So I've been out to India a couple of times and helped them out there. The year before COVID, Brownie, the CEO there, said to me, do you think we'd like to start a women's team? Are you up for managing it? And I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. Not going to miss out on an opportunity to give players opportunity, right? So we decided that Penguins play every year Oxford, the men's team. So we decided that we would set up a women's Oxford versus Penguins, men and women, the same day. All organised, all done. All the players were on board. I even had Susie Appleby to coach the squad. I mean, I was rocking it, right? And then the joys of COVID hit, right? And it was 2 weeks before it got. So we had to wait a couple of years. And then they said, right, we're going to go out to the Costa Blanca Sevens. We're going to take a men's team. We want to take a women's sevens team. Can you do it? And I was like, yep, sure. Brought Rachel Taylor on board. Thought I'll go out for someone who knows sevens more than I know sevens, because I've never been a sevens player. I ended up the career in the forwards, as you can imagine. So Taylor's worked with me on that one. We've got a great squad out there. Actually, players now that are still playing in the Prem, like Daisy Hibbert-Jones, at Loughborough. So we've been really fortunate in the Penguins ladies teams to have a lot of players now who play Prem or did play Prem. And it's just getting those teams together, really. So we're on tour we're number 4 now. Yeah, this year we're going to Italy, to Bologna. So that's where we're at. That's how I got involved with Penguins, and I love it. I just organised their 65th anniversary celebrations, and give a busy woman a job and she'll get it done. I'm that busy woman.
You are that woman. And the wooden spoon, where did that come from?
So that came out the fact that I'm obviously a vet. I sometimes don't look it. So Wooden Spoon approached me. A guy there, Matt Mitchell, who I knew from years. His son played with my son for a long time. He said to me, we're looking to do Wooden Spoon. We're looking to see if the women want to join in. We've done it in the men's tournament for years. We're going to reach out to a couple of key people in different areas. So they reached out to Bernsey up north, and they reached out to me, and they started having conversations. Is it viable? And lo and behold, Wooden Spoon Vets Fest coexisted with the men, and has done ever since. So I looked after the Kent ladies region. So we did that. I don't know, was that 3 years? Yeah, 3 years we've done that for. We've won 2. The year we didn't win, Bernsey's Group 1. But there's like thousands of players. Jill and I have decided now that we're really too old to even play vets rugby, because we kind of can't even keep up with the 35-year-olds anymore. Yeah, actually, I can't even keep up with the 50-year-olds anymore, Bruce. I'm that old. So Jill and I are going to look after the vintage vets next year at Vets Fest, which is the over category. We haven't actually decided the format of the game yet. It may just be a tag. Yeah. It may not be. It might just be boat racing. It might not be. We don't know. It's just going to be different. So we're going to have a group of ladies who are slightly older and are happy to chase after another 50-year-old and not chase after a 35-year-old.
Yeah. Class.
So that's Wooden Spoons. Yeah, and again, giving back to a great charity, right? Penguins is a great charity. Spoons is an amazing charity. Just kind of keep giving back to these people, really.
I love it. Yeah. And then the picture over your shoulder, when you got asked about carrying the Olympic torch, I
want to block it up now.
Did you think it was a white? How did that? Because you don't give yourself a huge amount of credit for what you've done. So when you get the call for that, what did you think, or how did it come about? I don't know.
came about as a volunteer nomination. People who worked in the community and what had people done in your community and how did it work and stuff like that. It actually came through from, I think it was Lloyd's Bank, maybe. And it came through the company I was working at as what volunteers have you got that are worth anything? And they kind of had this big old, I don't know, put people forward, and there was hundreds of people that were put forward, and then it was shortlisted to 20, and then it was shortlisted to 10, and then there was like 5 of us. And so within the company globally, it was 5 people. For these reasons, they're going to get nominated, and then everyone's got a 48-hour window to vote for people. And lucky for me, because the other people were just as worthy, I came up with the position of being able to do that. And that was amazing. That was, do you know what? That was an amazing moment. And you don't do things as a volunteer to get things back. When that happens at that level, because it's everyone knows about it. The streets were mobbed, I'm used to having 20 people around the side of a pitch, not a mob of people, clapping and cheering and police people surrounding me to look after the flame, it was an amazing experience, not just for me, my family too, and everyone else who's been a supporter of me, because I can't do what I do without my support network around me too, so kind of a reward for all of us, I think.
I absolutely love it. Right, we've almost run out of time, and I know I'm going to have to come back and speak to you another time, but I'm going to ask, if you had a crystal ball, what does women's rugby look like in 10 years' time?
Oh man, that's a hard question, Bruce, an on-the-spot question. Look, it needs to have grown. It needs to be growing that level where people haven't got to really think about having sideline jobs. And those squads in those Prem clubs need to be a bigger squad of paid people, as opposed to, just some paid and some not paid. And those championship level 1 and 2, it'd be nice to see something in there rewarded to those players, because those players coming through in the North and the South champ levels, they are just normal worker bees. That's kind of not how it is in the male environment. Not that we have to emulate that environment, because actually they've taken a lot from the female. But I would like to see something that is start to come downwards as far as, opportunity for, being paid for what you do a little bit more, or just, for the games you play or the commitment you put in, something like that. I don't know. I hope other countries have a premiership like we do, because I think that, their players have really benefited from our premiership. And I think that's great. I'm pleased that we're open for that, and the players like owners coming over. I think it's really, really good. But wouldn't it be good if some of those countries had a premiership of the same level, where some of our players maybe aren't getting into our Prem, could jump over there instead and play over there. So I'd like to see that sort of thing growing and evolving. But I'd like it to be less than 10 years, please, Bruce.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the World Cup final is going to be sold out. Well, it's sold out. Twickenham, stadiums are going to be selling out. I hope, this is probably one of the most British things I'm ever going to say, but I really hope it's nice weather.
Hold on, I need to make sure we are recording this. This is okay. It's all right. So British. I thought you were going to say something there, being a Scot, and going to say, I hope England win, but that wasn't going to happen, was it?
Oh no, I think England need to. I think it's good. I was at the Commonwealth Games Sevens final when the Lionesses won, and the atmosphere in the stadium at Coventry was electric, and everybody sang Sweet Caroline. It was an amazing thing to be part of.
Bruce, I was there too.
Yeah, how good was it? How good?
My whole skin was up in bumps. It was phenomenal.
It was unreal.
I don't think Coventry Football Ground was ever the same afterwards, though, was it?
No, never before and never again. But for what it would do, I'd love Scotland to get into the knockouts. I'd love to think we could get to the quarters. I'd love, England win the whole thing overall. For the growth of the game, it would just be phenomenal. And a lot of those players deserve it. And if an Aitchison can be wearing number 10 and win the World Cup, I've claimed her as my daughter. Her mum Denise comments on everything that I put on Facebook about her, and says, because I have the hashtag not my daughter, and she always replies, she's my daughter. So
yeah, but you're going to take that claim, aren't you? Although not my daughter, I get that bit right. You just keep on with that one. But she's an Aitchison. You're going to wear her. Your girls are going to be wearing their shirts, right, Bruce?
Yeah. Well, if Aitchison can win a World Cup, I think I'll take that. I'll be a happy man. Sandra, thank you so much. I've loved speaking to you again. it took me to track you down for a pod to get a chat, but hopefully I'll see you at some point very, very soon. Thank you.
I hope that is the case, Bruce. Thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Awesome. Love it. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. You can catch us on Apple, Acast and Spotify. You can watch on Facebook and YouTube. What an absolute superstar. And that smile just lights up every single room, I promise you. And the Penguins and the Wooden Spoon and club and country, everybody's going to benefit from Sandra for the next however many 100 years that she keeps going and keeps convincing people to play. I've absolutely loved it. I was Bruce Aitchison from Happiness Egg Shaped. This was the Happiness Pod. We'll be back. See you all soon. Thank you.